Hello and welcome to SoCal Prep Report. My name is Randy Rosenblum. I'll be joined by Tarek of the Daily News momentarily. A couple very special guests tonight. Donna Lee, Valencia softball coach. She's won CIF titles, national championship as well. She's going to retire from coaching. She's still teaching at Valencia. She'll join us in a little bit. After that, Carlos Gray, the head volleyball coach at Palisades. They just won the LA City Section Championship. Stunning Chatsworth. But we're going to start tonight with track and field, Tarek. You were at Birmingham High School this afternoon, and Dijon Stanley in the 400 put on a clinic, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Dijon Stanley, he won. He was a four-time city champ today. Won one in the 4x100, 4x400, the 200, and set a new state mark in the 400, running a 46.94. He told me today he was more focused on the time than winning the city title because he'll get a good lane position for the state meet next weekend.
Yeah, only David Geddes in city annals has run faster. I remember David is terrific football and track guy out of Dorsey High School, later played at Washington State. But Geddes was phenomenal, had the long strides. And Dijon Stanley is also a great football player. In fact, on our air on LA 36 against El Camino Real a couple of years ago, he ran for nearly 300 yards for the Highlanders.
Yeah, he's an outstanding athlete, highly recruited, highly talented, only a junior, so one to watch next year. Probably the best back in the city. All
right, well, stay with track. Let's talk about Roderick Pleasant at Sarah of Gardena. Just last week, talk about putting on a clinic. In the 100 and in the 200, he was unbelievable. 10.16 wind aided. What was it, 20.4 the other way in the 200 as we take a look at Dijon Stanley, who was phenomenal. This is footage from this afternoon when he won the 400 meter. But Roderick Pleasant was fast in the 100 and the 200. He put on a show.
It's remarkable, the athletes and the time they put in, and to put in all your effort for 10 seconds. Roderick Pleasant, I mean, he's all anyone can talk about right now. Another junior, another highly touted and highly recruited football player. He'll put on his best show next weekend. He's got the Masters this weekend. Masters meet, got to get through that. But next weekend, the state championship, maybe he'll be a state champion.
Yeah, he's a terrific cornerback in football, Roderick Pleasant. Good kid. Wears that big S for Superman in track and field, and he's able to back it up. All right, baseball's on the horizon. Let's start with the CIF Southern section. I know Harvard Westlake got knocked out. They're the defending champions in D1. But there's another Mission League team into the finals, Tom Dill's Notre Dame squad. But waiting for them, Jay Serra this weekend. Jay Serra lost to Harvard Westlake last season, so this is redemption for Jay Serra.
I just think they've got the edge, almost because they lost last year. They've been there before. There's a little bit of pain there, a lot of returners. Notre Dame hasn't been to a CIF final since 2008. They won that game, so it's been a while. Never been to a D1 final. It was a lower division in 2008, but it's going to be a great match, great pitching matchup. Cole Clark from Notre Dame and J.J. Hollis for Jay Serra. Although Jay Serra, get ready, they're kind of a win-by-committee type pitching crew, so there could be multiple pitchers in that game.
And these are two great clubs, although the surprise here is Orange Lutheran was the top-ranked team. They got knocked out in a tremendous game against Notre Dame, so they're out. So it comes down to Notre Dame and this very fine team from Jay Serra. All right, let's turn our attention to the city section. We're going to move now into the Elite 8. They're down to 8. They started with 12. We featured Marshall last week. They got knocked off in the opening round, 5-2. They lost at home to Poly of Sun Valley. The number one team here is Granada Hills.
So Granada Hills is going to see a familiar foe, West Valley team in Chatsworth, and El Camino Real still alive, Sun Valley Poly, Birmingham, all teams still alive. It's going to be a shootout, and that's tomorrow. Friday afternoon, we'll see the quarterfinals for the Open Division City Baseball playoffs. And the thing about the city playoffs, you just never know. The beauty of what makes that fun is the parity. You really don't know who's going to win it. Although last time I was at Dodger Stadium, 3 times before, it was Birmingham. So it's kind of a contradicting statement by myself, but you just never know.
And again, San Pedro did win the last city championship.
Correct.
So they're very good. All right, softball's here as well. We'll start with the city section in softball. El Camino Real trying to go back-to-back. Looking to win their 18th. Nobody's won 18 city titles. They're tied with San Pedro. But they have a tough neighbor they're going to play in Kennedy High School, who's overachieved in the playoffs, knocked off the number 2 team, Granada Hills, and has been scoring a bunch of runs.
Really fun story at Kennedy. If you go to dailynews.com/high school sports, you will see a story I wrote. It'll be in tomorrow's paper. Kennedy has not had a home field all year.
Right.
They've had to play their games at Pettit Park. They've had to use the throwing pit to practice. They've taken ground balls on the blacktop, and here they are in the Open Division final. Quite a remarkable story of perseverance and togetherness from that Kennedy Cougars team. So we'll see if they have enough to get one more win, and it's their first time in a CIF final since 2010.
And in the southern section, Los Alamitos knocked off undefeated Oaks Christian, who had been 31-0. They're in the finals against Roosevelt of Eastville. Is Los Alamitos the prohibitive favorite here?
Oh, man, that's going to be a great game. I just think Robert Weil
He's looking for his, seventh championship?
Yeah, he's just the savvy veteran. That's the Los Alamitos softball coach. I saw it with my own two eyes. They beat Oaks Christian, a very good Oaks Christian, Pete Ackerman-led team. So I'll give the edge to Los Alamitos. I think they're going to win a Division I title. And the last time they won a Division I title, 2017.
Okay. All right, we're speaking softball, right?
Yeah.
When you think
Great
of softball,
sport.
you got to think of what? Donna Lee, right?
Of course.
Donna, for many, many years at Valencia High Schools, produced tremendous teams, won a national championship in 2007. She's going to join us momentarily, and we're going to talk about her softball program. We're going to talk about her retirement. She's going to still teach. She's still teaching at Valencia High School in Valencia. There are multiple Valencia schools. She's the one in Valencia in the Santa Clarita Valley, and she's going to continue to teach. But she's a big loss in terms of softball coaches.
Oh, no question. I think when, in my coverage area at the Daily News, almost 8 years now, Donna Lee and the Valencia Vikings have always been a team that you think of when it comes to the springtime. You're checking in on Valencia, see how they're going to do in that competitive foothill league. And so really excited to talk to her tonight.
All right, let's bring in Donna Lee. She's our first guest. Again, a little later in the program, we're going to have Carlos Gray on. There she is, Donna Lee, always smiling. Donna, thanks for joining us tonight.
No problem. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you're not pulling a Tom Brady on us and you're going to retire for 40 days and say, wait a minute, I missed the sport too much. I want to coach.
Oh, no. Tarek already said I have your job as soon as I retire.
Anybody can have my job. It's easy. Anybody can talk. It's a very simple position. All right, what was the secret for success for Donna Lee over all these years? Over a quarter of a century of coaching, winning all these CIF and championships and a national title. Why were you so successful out in Valencia?
When we started in 1994, we really concentrated on just the process, not the results. Just really building a solid foundation. And, the more we believed in the process and what we were doing, we started winning, and you couldn't stop us. From 2001 on, we just, we all we had to do was believe it. And once we got that first championship, we were on a roll, definitely. So
Donna,
dedication, of course.
Sorry. Donna, try to compare coaching a high school softball player in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, compared to just finishing up the type of kid you're coaching in that 20-year span. Can you kind of touch on the differences of the type of kid you're coaching?
Oh gosh, I think there's so many more distractions now as athletes.
Such a complicated
so many more distractions.
question.
And not only that, but even when I went to high school, you could play multiple sports. I think kids are so centered now on just their sport. And I really believed in balance in our program. And I encourage kids to play other sports because it makes them better athletes. And, as softball players, and I even look at UCLA, they always recruit the athletes. The athletes are your best players. And like I said, the biggest thing I think is just distraction and just the amount of coaching they get year round. Compared to what, when I played, or even 20 years ago. Before it was just you had your season. Now they're playing all year. So it's a big difference. So
let's look at it from a different angle. How have you had to change with the changes in the players since the early 90s to now? Where was Donna Lee changing along that path?
Oh, that's a great question. The biggest thing I think when the kids have their own hitting coaches, and they're paying for the hitting coaches, you have to talk to them and say, what are you working on this week with your hitting coach? And so we try to make sure that we, compare what they're working on there and what we're working on here, and we try to make sure we mesh it. Or I'll go back and say, hey, you know what? Can you talk to your hitting coach? This is what I'm seeing. So I try to really make sure I meet them halfway, and that's what you need to do: meet them halfway. So
The Foothill League, one of the most competitive leagues, at least as long as I've been in high school sports. The Foothill League, there's a culture out there, baseball and softball. It's just a really, really hungry area for that sport. Would you agree with that? And just talk about the competition in the Foothill League in all your years.
Oh, it's, these girls have been playing together since they were little in bobby socks. But when they get in high school and they're playing against each other, boy, I'm going to tell you, they will do anything to win. Their best friend may be a catcher, but they'll go right through the catcher to make sure they can score the winning run. But they're everything's hugs and kisses after the game. But on the field, once you obviously cross over the foul line, hey, it's all about business. And everybody wants to win. You want bragging rights. That's the bottom line. You want bragging rights. And you get bragging rights until the next season starts.
Not a lot of teams win national championships in the sports, especially it's really guesswork at the prep level. But we see it with Modern Day and St. John Bosco a little bit in football. You had the privilege of coaching a team in 2007 that was deemed the best softball team in the country. So you did win a national championship. What did it take, and why did you win it?
The biggest thing was probably team chemistry. We had so many talented kids, but they had to be accepting of their role on the team. You can only start 9 players, and if they didn't accept their role, that's when you all of a sudden have team chemistry issues. And I think by the time we started, everybody really said, okay, this is my role on my team. If I'm coming off the bench, great. Or if I'm the starting left fielder, fine. I'm accepting my role. So that was the biggest thing. And once they accepted their role and they accepted the we for the me, hey, we did it. And not only that, but
Taylor. I wanted to ask you about
I was going to say,
Taylor.
even for
You're a great pitcher.
For Oaks Christian going into the playoffs being undefeated, that was tough. The good news is we had our loss before we ever started the playoffs. So, because that year we were 32-1.
Okay, that's awesome. I mentioned Jordan Taylor, your pitcher. What made her special? I know you believe she's one of the great players you ever had. She went on to Michigan and had a great career there as well.
Oh, the weird thing is I just got a text from her congratulating me on retiring. She's actually retiring this year from playing professionally in Japan. So we're both retiring at the same time. I think the biggest thing was just her hard work and dedication and really striving to be the best. And not only that, but, she set goals every year and she was on track to make sure that she, met that goal. She sacrificed so much time going down to Orange County for pitching lessons and just, that's what great softball players do. They dedicate their time to softball. And they choose to make sure that they reach their goals by, obviously working hard.
Donna, someone like Jordan Taylor, we talked about Ali Shipman before the show started. I mean, do you consider that like a little feather in your cap? I know they put in all the hard work, but that's what makes your program so great. The wins, the players, the success. What's your response to just knowing after all these years you've coached so many great young ladies?
Oh, it's just so great to have an impact on young girls and to let them realize that they can be anything they want to be and to be strong women. I mean, they come in as young girls, not really have a lot of confidence, but they leave knowing that they can do anything and everything. And that's what it's all about, having an impact that's so strong to say, hey, believe in yourself. And you know what? You can do whatever you believe in.
You're the older sister. Debbie was a pretty good coach, too. Oh, you're
I'm the younger sister.
I should have known that. You look younger. Okay, so your twin sister, Debbie, had a successful career in coaching as well. She's retiring. What are you guys going to do with retirement once you set out to another path to travel? Is that what you're going to do?
Well, I'm going to look at the door she opens right now, and I'll figure out what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it, basically. So I'm taking basically her example by what she does. So we'll see what happens. So.
Well, Donna, thanks a lot. We'd like to see you back in the coaching fraternity. You did a great job for many years. You built that Viking program up, the dominant team in the Foothill League. You are to be commended. Tremendous accolades, tremendous accomplishments, and best of luck in the future.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, that's Donna Lee, the head coach at Valencia. She'll be long remembered. She's a Hall of Famer.
No question. I mean, that's a long time to be doing anything, and she's had success for a long time too. We have people in all walks of life that do something for a long time. Doesn't mean you were good at it for that long. Donna Lee's been great for all those years, and I'm going to miss calling her because I think she was a great, insightful coach to talk to about softball.
And again, I should have known she was the younger sister by the 3 minutes. So I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway, talking about great coaches who've had a lot of accomplishments, Carlos Gray at Palisades in both boys and girls volleyball. He hadn't been there all that long, and he's won 5 boys championships in the city section and 3 girls titles, and he just upset Chatsworth. And Chatsworth was the top seed, and his Pally team was the number 2 seed. So it wasn't a shocking development that they won, but it surprised a lot of people because Chatsworth was the defending champion.
I think everyone had Chatsworth pegged to win it, and so when everyone's like, oh yeah, Chatsworth's going to win, and I imagine, we're going to talk to Carlos about it, I'd imagine that kind of fired him up a little bit, and then, Palisades gets him. If I'm not mistaken, Chatsworth won the first set, and then Palisades, boom, 3 sets in a row to get that victory. So good job on them, and looking forward to talking to Carlos.
Well, let's bring Carlos in at this point. Again, he was at Malibu for a while, and he's taken over the program at Palisades and has done a terrific job. Carlos, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
We're doing well. All right, how'd you do it? How'd you spring the mild upset? I know this was a Chatsworth team that was pegged number 1. They had beaten everybody in the city section all year long, but you turned the tables on them in the finals. How'd you get it done?
More than anything, it was the development of our players. We played that team and lost to them in 4 in our place, but it was only the second game of the year, I believe, that we had played. And I knew it was a new team because I was just coming back in, and with COVID and all of the other seasons, and Dustin Warpay had actually coached them last year. This was my first year with that group, with that nucleus. So getting them to come together was a big deal. And when we came out and we got game 1, once we got game 1, we beat them 25, I believe 16 or 17 in game 1. I was like, okay, they're going to settle down and play and we'll be okay. And then they came out and blitzed us in game 2. They beat us 25-12, I believe, in game 2. And I was like, well, we woke the sleeping giant. But it was weird. It was a weird match in the sense none of those games were close. It was the last 2 were 25-15, 25-15.
What made your team so good this year? Why were the Dolphins a championship caliber squad? Who got it done for you?
Our setter, Blake Pecksock, was phenomenal. He was the steady guy. And then Gus Wibbelsman was our outside hitter, and he's one of the more dynamic outside hitters in the league, or in the section even. And even in SoCal, he was just amazing. And then I had a kid, Matisse Lee Merrick, who was our middle blocker. And we were just a little better in transition because of those 3. We were able to move the ball around, especially with Blake's setting. And I think that was pretty much the difference. That and game plan, they bought into the game plan from the beginning.
Carlos, did you have to weave a fine thread of kind of channeling maybe that this Palisades team going into the playoffs? I know that, a high seed, but Chatsworth was all the talk. Was there like a blend of maybe some underdog mentality and kind of blending in, hey, you're confident enough to win this thing? Did you feel like that was a challenge going into the postseason?
It was a challenge, but both teams played in the Redondo tournament towards the end of the season. And we pulled an upset. We're beating a really, really strong Long Beach Wilson team. And what ended up happening is it put us in Chatsworth's half of the playoff draw. So we watched them play Torrey Pines knowing that we were going to play the winner. And they played a tough match. They played a great match against Torrey Pines, and we ended up beating Torrey Pines in that next round. And that was when my guys were like, okay, we got a shot. Now, by no means were they like, oh, we're going to win. But they knew that we had a shot.
What makes Palisades such a great volleyball school and community?
It's just the kids play, and it's the middle schools there. All of the middle schools there have good volleyball teams. Calvary Christian is a very good have a very good volleyball program. Obviously, Corpus has a great volleyball program. Even now, Paul Revere, the public school, has an excellent program. So you've got kids playing early. So you're able to kind of channel that and guide it. It was so every year I get, some wonderful athletes. They're by no means their completed product, but you get a lot to work with.
Talk about the city section a little bit. And tell me if you disagree. I just feel like in volleyball, there's really 3 or 4 really good teams. Like I don't know how many boys volleyball teams are in the tournaments you're talking about down at Redondo and stuff, but you're competing against those southern section programs. Would you like to see some more parity in the city section boys open division?
I would, but I believe it's coming. I believe, especially in our league, the Western League, we were very competitive, and Venice actually won the girls' title this year. So they were very competitive. You have Uni, who's always very competitive. And then the West Valley League, man, there's 4 or 5 programs up there that are very, very good. Then you get someone like Narbonne, who played very high level volleyball, and Carson was playing excellent volleyball this year. So there are some teams that are coming. Um, Unfortunately, for some of the schools, they have a different focus. They're focused on the basketball and the football. So some of those dominant athletes are there, but it's coming. It's slowly but surely coming, and I'm hoping that we can, along with Chatsworth and Granada and some of these other teams, we can kind of step out and say, "Hey, we're playing some good ball here."
Well, you did play some pretty good ball in the regionals. You unfortunately had to go up against Loyola and lost that in 3, but they were competitive sets. And I think you showed that certainly Palisades isn't that far away. With that being said, Loyola's gone on to the regional final. They're going to play Newport Harbor in a rematch of the Southern Section final where Newport Harbor upset Loyola. Map that out. Loyola, you saw firsthand. You know about Newport Harbor. How good a match is that going to be again in the regional championship?
That one's going to come down to serve, receive. If it's going to be who's operating in system more consistently. Um, Loyola is, I mean, you have Dylan Klein, who's special. You have a few other players on that team that are very special. And I've seen it firsthand. And I've known those kids, like Owen Longcar, I've known since he was 13 years old. So, those guys are special.
You coach some of those
Um,
guys.
yeah, well, Owen Longcar went to Palisades, and then when I left, I took that hiatus, took a 2 year kind of break from Pally. He ended up transferring to Loyola at that point. But those guys are amazing. And by the way, just saying on the competitive level, the city section compared to some of those other teams, we did beat Loyola head to head when I was there a few years back. We've only played them twice, so we're 1-1 with them. We're playing, and you know, the difference is they get guys like every year, whereas some of these city section programs we got to build. But I can tell you right now, Chatsworth is coming with that because they have a lot of guys playing club on the younger levels, and I coach on the younger levels, and those guys they're really putting in work. So that whole section is going to rise soon.
Carlos, a little more of a general question. Volleyball to me, I mean, obviously, guys jumping out the gym, I mean, athleticism, but there's a very technical side to the sport as well. Talk about just blending the technical aspect with the athletic aspect. I know it's more difficult than it looks.
It's very difficult, and where it comes into play mostly is in your ball control. It's in your passing. You worry. You could jump 52 inches, but if you can't pass, you can't get that hitter the ball where that hitter needs the ball. So it's a very it's passing and setting and understanding just small little nuances of the game is tough. I mean, I was a basketball player first. I was a basketball player in high school. I was football, basketball. And volleyball for me was a challenge to learn those smaller aspects. I could hit and block, but I couldn't pass. I didn't start passing until my second year of junior college ball. So that's the aspect where the athleticism kind of takes a smaller backseat, not a full backseat, but a smaller backseat to some of these, some of these kids. You can have a libero that's 5'5" and pass nails all day. My girls' team is not a big, giant, elevate, terminate team, but they were just they would ball control you to death.
Well, Carlos, again, congratulations on another championship. You're building your own legacy at Palisades, and Palisades already has a phenomenal volleyball legacy amongst other sports. You've won 8 championships now in less than a decade. Keep it going, and thanks for joining us tonight on SoCal Prep Report.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
That's Carlos Grain. You look great. He's lost a lot of weight, and he now does look like Denzel Washington. I told him that before the show. They're good. Palisades is good.
No denying that. They got a city title to prove it.
All right, speaking of Palisades, I wrote the kid's name down. Mike Kaplan. Do you know the name? Tennis player. Won the LA City Section Championship from Palisades. No surprise, Pally, like in volleyball, is great in tennis.
Another championship for Palisades.
Yes, I got one. We got another item we need to talk about.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a name. Turner Oswald.
Yep.
What comes to mind?
Yeah. Good golfer.
Better than Tiger did today at the PGA.
Yeah, Tiger struggled a little out there. Different
Well,
conditions.
his body's breaking down. But
Different conditions.
yeah, Turner's a younger kid. El Camino Real wins the city championship in golf. Shot a 68. What do you have? 4 or 5 birdies on the back nine.
Yep, I believe he finished 4 under, and I think there was a stretch in 9 holes. He birdied 7 of those holes. I think from like hole 16 through. It was like a 9-hole stretch where he birdied 6 or 7 holes. Eric Choi, his coach, was texting me as he was coming down the wire, like, man, he's on fire. He just birdied another one, and so congratulations to Turner Oswald, city
Yeah,
champ.
he had to play well down the stretch because there was a Palisades golfer, speaking of Palisades, it was right on his heels who shot a 69. So congratulations to Turner, and the Royals get a championship, the individual championship there. All right, it's going to be a big week. Where are you going tomorrow? Where are you going Saturday? What are you covering?
So tomorrow I am going to stay local. I'm going to cover some of that quarterfinal city baseball playoff stuff. I think I'm going to go to the Chatsworth-Granada game.
Does Chatsworth have a legitimate chance? They know Granada now.
Yeah, I'm going to, do they have a chance? Of course. Why else would you play the game? So yes, of course. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, they got no chance. But again, that same redemptive quality that Jay Serra has in the D1 Southern Section final after losing last year, Granada's got that same one, because remember last year they were also the #1 seed and got bounced in the first round. So I can guarantee you that's probably not going to happen again. So doesn't mean that Chatsworth can't make something special happen. So that's where I'll be tomorrow. Saturday, I will be at Cal State Northridge, Kennedy, El Camino Real, open division softball final. I got to see that Kennedy story through. They were the 7 seed. They knocked off #2 Granada. Then they travel to Carson. They knock off Carson. And like I had mentioned earlier in the show, they don't even have a home field, and here they are in the final. Too good of a story to pass up.
Yeah, but the other good story there is ECR is looking for its 18th championship.
Whatever. No, I'm kidding.
Come on, man, you got to look at big picture.
No,
here.
you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct.
They're looking to go back to back.
Yeah, it would be 18 city titles, and it would be the most softball titles of any program.
Yeah, San Pedro's got 17.
You got it. They're tied with San Pedro. So I just think there's a lot of story with that Kennedy team. Their coach, Christian Carbajal, last time Kennedy won a city title in 2010, they beat Chatsworth 1-0.
On a very controversial call
everyone
in that
brings
game.
that up. It was a controversial game.
A catch at second base, was it a catch or was it
You
not?
got it.
And it scored the only run of the game. I was there.
There you got it. Yeah, so
that game was on LA 36.
Carbajal was the pitcher for Kennedy. Now she's coaching in the final. We'll see what happens.
All right, that's going to do it. Tarek, thanks for coming out tonight.
Always a pleasure. Yeah. I love being here.
And we want to thank Donna Lee of Valencia High School for joining us tonight. They're a fine softball coach. We wish her well down the road as she gets ready for retirement. And of course, Carlos Gray of Palisades High School. A fine coach there. His team wins the city championship in boys volleyball. I'm sure there'll be a factor in the girls and the boys again next year. Palisades always is. We're going to come back next week. We're going to have a lot to talk about, all this championship, the softball games, the baseball games. We'll have the results. We'll have some guests, and we'll have Tarek Fatal. So for Tarek, I'm Randy. We'll see you next week. You know the time, 9 o'clock live, LA 36 on SoCal Prep Report. Good night, everybody.